Hi, everybody. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us today for this very special edition of Association Exchange. We're going to get started in just a moment. We're going to give people a little bit of time to connect with us. And as soon as we get a great population, we will then start our session. And we're very excited that Michelle's here with us today. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. We think this is an awesome way to start out 2025. And while we're waiting for everybody to get in, I'm going to ask everyone who's participating today to put into the chat, and we will be using chat for Q&A today, to put into the chat any New Year's resolutions that you may have, any New Year's resolutions people might want to share with the group.
Oh, I like that. Read more books.
Love that, Kaylee. To stay warm. Yeah, that's a really good one for most of the country today, right? My resolution is no resolution.
Drink more water. Yeah.
Yeah, healthier lifestyle. I think that's a popular one, Sabrina. More hikes. Sean, thank you for that. Celia, hello. Use some of my vacation time. Celia, use some of that vacation time, man. Focusing on being more positive. I love that. Okay, well, we're getting up to a critical mass, so I'm going to start with an introduction to Michelle. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sherry Singer. I'm the founder and one of the organizers of Association Exchange. We bring association executive free webinars as a service to the community. So if you know anybody who's perhaps not an ASAE member, oh, can't imagine that. And they might be interested in AXC, please let them know about us. We do monthly webinars. I really feel odd introducing Michelle today because most of us know who she is, but I will give her a little bit of an introduction. So Michelle Mason, FASAE and CAE, is CEO of ASAE, and she's been the CEO at ASAE since 2022. She came to ASAE after 8 years at Association Forum in Chicago. She's also worked for the American Society of Quality and ASAE on staff. She served on the ASAE board from 2011 to 2014, and in 2020, she was selected as from the professional society as the professional society CEO of the year by a panel of independent association CEOs and executive recruiters. So, Michelle, how are your holidays?
Well, Sherry, thank you so much for having me here on Association Exchange. And so my holidays were great. I hope yours as well.
They were. I went to New Orleans, but I was not there for the little incident that happened.
Oh, okay.
Fortunately. Let's also do a lightning round so people can get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, sure.
What is your favorite DC restaurant?
Well, I'm having dinner tonight at Rasica, which is an an Indian restaurant in the West End. So, well, maybe that'll become my favorite after tonight.
It's good. I've been there.
Oh, wonderful.
And what is your favorite movie?
My current favorite movie is Conclave. So I watched it on Netflix. So it was pretty good. I think that is a good movie as of today. Everything for me these days, real time.
That's true. And you have so much choice with all the streaming services. I did see Conclave over the holidays. I actually saw it in the movie theater and I just thought it was riveting. I thought the acting was incredibly good.
Yes.
All right. So let's ask a little harder question in this lightning round. What is your favorite part of being ASAE CEO?
My absolute favorite part of being ASAE CEO is really the people. I meet so many interesting, diverse, talented, amazing people who are all striving for the same thing, the betterment of our sector, of society, and that motivates me every day. I really enjoy learning from people, and so I get the benefit of that in this role.
It's so funny because I think that when you talk to association executives and you ask them why they are association executives, we're all doing this for the same reason. So it's nice to hear that from the top, it's coming down from the top. Everybody has kind of the same view. So this is a little tougher. What's your least favorite part of being the ASAE CEO?
I would say Least favorite, I would say today, again, everything's real time with me, right? So these days, at least, I would just say some of the uncertainty. We every day is a day of change as of late. So I wouldn't say it's the least favorite part, but just trying to navigate and manage and understand what's to come is something that we're trying to figure out.
And speaking of what's to come, let's talk. I'm going to ask a series of questions now about more about 2025, more about the
Sure.
real time. And then I'll ask some questions about what the future of associations might look like. And I encourage everyone on the call today or on our webinar today to ask your questions in the chat, and we'll get to them as many as possible. I hope that this part takes about 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll have another 15, 20 minutes for your Q&A. So here's the first question. What's keeping you up at night right now?
Yeah, there are quite a few things that are keeping me up at night, but I would say just the rapid change that we're experiencing is something that we are trying to navigate in our role here at ASAE. We need to understand, navigate, and help our members prepare for the future, if you will. And so, as we know, there are a series of executive orders that have been issued within the past 48 hours. And so that's something that's top of radar for us. And I know we'll briefly talk about it on this call. We have the tax reform issue that ASAE is taking a lead on with the proposed 21% tax on associations. We established a coalition last year, which to prevent that from occurring, right, to prepare and protect the sector. So that's something as well. In their workforce issues and other issues that are out there that ASAE is working in partnership with our members, because we understand we can't navigate and prepare for these uncertainties on our own. So there's quite a few things that are, out there that we need to definitely keep on our radar screen. We heard yesterday that there is a multi-billion-dollar investment in AI. And so last year, ASAE established an AI coalition that's being chaired by one of our board members, Jason Oxman, who is the CEO of the International Technology, well, ITI. I'll just say that I might get the acronym. And again, we're trying to understand, what will these policies mean for associations, and what could the potential impact be? We want to understand what are the tools and resources that our members need, and then also provide a safe place and space for our members to network, have conversations, ask the critical questions to better prepare their organizations.
So you kind of touched on the next question a little bit, but things like the next generation of AI, culture, workforce development, conscious inclusion, retiring CEOs, young professionals not being joiners. These are all issues that are facing associations as well as, other sectors of the working American environment. What do you think are the biggest challenges that are facing associations?
Sherry, I mean, honestly, I think they're all big challenges depending on the organization, because we're all addressing them in a different way. So, for example, as I shared with you, we know yesterday there was, there's this the multi-billion-dollar investment in AI. Well, what does that mean for associations? We just today executive order on DEI. We're trying to understand, and we will, what is the response for associations, right? Workforce issues. We will talk about return to work, to office, and we know what's happening in the government, which is really signaling a lot of change. And so, what our members are asking, how does this impact us, and what should we do? And again, I think that the magnitude of these issues will impact associations in a different way. So our role is to make sure we prepare our members to the best of our ability with the tools, the resources, or even the platform to have the conversations that will inform their business strategies. But we're all navigating the same universe of change. It's just the impacts will be very different.
Yeah, and one of the things that I know is in that list of executive orders, and I haven't delved into them
Yeah,
deeply enough to know exactly what this means, but they were talking about, and I did hear the president talking about this as well, about kind of rolling back conscious inclusion and what we have come to know as conscious inclusion,
yeah,
past referred to as DEI. What does that really look like for associations? I mean, that's really concerning. And I'm, keep asking myself, are we going back to 1955? I mean, what does this look like in
yeah,
not just the government, but in society as a whole? And it's also a little bit reflective of a backlash, kind of an undercurrent of a
yeah.
backlash that we were kind of seeing in corporations. Do you
Right.
have a sense of what that means to associations?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the fundamental definition of an association, right? We're a group of people joined together for a common collective purpose. And within that group of people, we value the representation. We value the diversity, not just in the traditional uh, definitions of diversity, but also different ideology and different, just in general. So for us, we believe that it's important. We believe that the greatest innovation comes from having diversity, for having representation, being very inclusive. So that's core to who we are as associations. And so, like most, we are on trying to understand the literally less than 24 hours. What does this executive order mean? We at ASAE, we're a nonpartisan organization, so we want to be very careful about what we say and what we do. So it'll be a topic of conversation for the ASAE Executive Committee, which meets tomorrow with our legal counsel, because again, we want to make sure we provide the most informed, best decisions. And we know our actions dictate actions within the association, a response within the association community, and we're very mindful of that.
Yeah, modeling behavior. So,
Yeah.
as we've mentioned, there's been a changing of the guard, and let's switch to a specific policy focus. And you mentioned the tax issue
Mhm.
and some other things. Are there other issues that you anticipate this year that might come up from the changing of the guard in DC?
Wow. Wow, this year, wow, we're like few days in. in March. So we know that the tax reform and tariffs. I mean, that's on the radar screen, which is important. And again, we formed a coalition called the Community Impact Coalition. We have over 62, 63 associations involved in that coalition. And Mary Kate Cunningham, our Chief Public Policy and Governance Officer, is doing a phenomenal job leading that. So again, that's a way for us to position the association community, make sure our voice is heard. As we discussed, there's been an AI czar appointed. There's this multi-billion-dollar investment in AI, and there's some other things circling around in terms of AI. And so we're trying to understand what is the impact on associations. So last year, we established an AI coalition, again, being led by Jason, to understand what is, to make sure we have our community voice at the table in terms of how ASAE respond and in terms of policy, to make sure we have leadership at the table. And we are considered that trusted, vetted source during a period of misinformation and all of that. So that's important to us. I was recently having a conversation with an ASAE member, and she so astutely says, what, we need to be that media source for our members as they're trying to filter and distinguish. We talked about Sherry's PR before the call started. So we'll just need to think strategically about how we vet information for our members, particularly in this era of AI. So there are those issues that are out there. Workforce certainly is one. Return to office, the mandate, the impact that it's having on our cultures. So we just need to mind these policies. We need to also look at this. Again, ASAE is a nonpartisan organization. So, very clear in taking the personal out of the business of this. And so we know that we will have a very interesting 4 years ahead of us. So how do we partner? How do we make sure we continue to tell the story of our sector, which is such a strong contributor to society. And that's why these coalitions are very important, of diverse voices, yet impactful voices and associations, and making sure that we are, obviously a point of a resource as these orders and things are being implemented.
Well, thank you very much for that. And now I'm going to get into the tougher questions, because we're going to look like kind of beyond 2025
Yeah.
and what the association of the future might look like. So we did just hear, we've been talking a lot about this series of executive orders that have come down the pike in the last day or so. And one of them is requiring all of the government employees to return to work. Do you see that happening with associations? I know many associations have been, either fully remote or hybrid, kind of in between. What do you think the association might look like in the future beyond 2025?
I don't see a day where there will be a mandate for associations to work like 5 days a week. Again, it depends on the individual organization. What works best for the organization is business strategy, is culture. So at ASAE, we're 2 days in the office a week, and our staff is empowered to select the 2 days as long as they get their work done. And first and foremost, our members are the lifeblood of this organization, and we are responding to our member needs. And I think our staff has done a pretty good job. We will use our upcoming office move to make that policy official. And so, but for now, we have great flexibility with it. We are very cognizant of the fact that over the past 4, 5 years, it's so hard to believe that it has been that period of time, that our team members, their lives have changed. We have parents, we have caregivers, and so we want to be respectful of that. And we know that if we change their worlds, that it will impact retention, it will impact recruitment, it will impact a variety of things. And at the end of the day, our team members are adults, and they know how to get their work done in this new environment. So for us, at least, we're going to stay the course in terms of our remote policy. I know of organizations that are 100% remote and they're working effectively. And I know of some that are thinking about return to office 3 to 4 days of work. Again, it depends on your organizational strategy, the culture you're striving to create. But most importantly, our focus is on workforce retention, and also being able to serve the needs of our members.
Yes, I think that's really important, is to serve the needs of the members and also to serve their employees' needs.
Exactly.
Those soft skills, I think, have become more important since COVID. And I, for one, I'm applauding that, because I've always had those soft skills, and those are my areas to improve on every performance evaluation. And now it's like areas that people value. So I want to flip a little bit and talk a little bit about associations and competition. In your opinion, do you think that, where do you think the competition for associations will come from 2025 and really beyond?
I mean, that's a good question. I think competition, what we've learned, right, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, is competition can come from anywhere. Competition can be from your own members. And so it's how you respond to it. Is to me the best strategy. And what are the signals that you pay attention to? Because every shiny new object is not one that you should, kind of double down on. It's competitive and we have to address it. Sometimes competition can be healthy and it can be good, in terms of organizations can become complacent. And so have healthy competition is not a bad thing, to continue to keep this whole idea of being innovative, however you define it as your organization, because it means different things to different organizations. You have small innovations which can be very impactful, or you can have breakthrough, right? So I think competition is healthy. I think it's good. I think obviously technology, AI, can pose a competitive threat if you do not embrace it. And I would strongly encourage for associations to have a strategy to embrace AI, because it's not going to go away. It's not a threat. So again, it can come from a variety of sources.
What do you think might be the biggest impact on associations in terms of change? Is it technology? Is it shifting membership structure? Is it switching from staid committees to more micro volunteering and ad hoc committees. In your opinion, what do you see as being like one or two of the issues having the greatest impact on association environments?
Yeah, I think to me the biggest issue on change is for us not to embrace it because it's here. I mean, just this week alone. So, how are we reskilling, upskilling, preparing our teams to embrace change, to embrace uncertainty, to focus on to the best of the ability? How do you become more of an agile organization to respond to the things that you're just not prepared for? So, let's just use the past 24 hours, the executive order on DEI and all that we knew it was coming. Now we need to actually respond to it. So, what are those mechanisms we're putting in place, the tools and the resources to support our teams? Is that human piece. I know Jeff put in the chat, it's the human skills, right? How do we become that organization that can be responsive, know what to respond to versus what not to respond to, because you cannot respond to everything. So it starts with the people first. It also starts having the infrastructure. Our systems updated to be responsive, our technology. We're dealing with that here at ASAE. The past few years, we're experiencing a major overhaul of our technology infrastructure to be more accessible, to be more efficient, all of that. That is very important as well. So you have the people part, you have the systems part, and the processes. So you have the internal processes to align with the business strategy so that you can take action. So we need to look at that holistically. And so then we can be prepared to say, what are the issues that we should address? Because if you don't have those fundamentals in place, I'm not quite sure how successful you'll be.
I totally agree with that. And when you're talking about technology, there's a lot of, we talk about technology and we always talk AI. I feel like we throw those two
Yeah,
words out, right? And we don't really,
absolutely.
but there's other issues in technology as well. There's like cybersecurity, there's
Hmm.
new versions of AI, there's legal issues with AI. What do you think will be the next technological advancement that possibly could affect associations in the kind of same way as AI has affected associations in cybersecurity?
Yeah, so it's a good thing, Sherry. I'm not in the futurist business, but we all have opinions about things. I think I don't know what the future holds. To be quite honestly, I just know my responsibility, our responsibility is to prepare our members for it with the tools and the resources and such. But I think when I think about AI in the future, I think about the human element, right? And there's this whole AGI now, which many say is not really. Out there yet. But if I know about the term AGI, something's happening because I'm not a technology person. And that's the incorporation of the human component into AI. Wow, what a day that will be, when, how does that impact decision making, problem solving, the soft skills, the human skills we discussed and the role of the association. So we're not quite there yet, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't have the conversations. Those conversations are very important. And so I just think that's something for us to consider. And many probably know that ASAE has a body of knowledge called Foresight's work around trends that are impacting associations. And so, we have about 50 trends. We update them, maybe one or two a year. And so I would say in terms of preparing your organization, pay attention to the foresight trends, pay attention to the trends that we're releasing and those trends that our members are discussing, because we know 3 data points make a trend. So if we're looking at that foresight work and we're understanding the members are having conversations about certain trends more than others, then that's a behavior, right? That's something we should focus on. So, for example, what we're seeing now or hearing about more conversations about mergers and acquisitions. Well, that's likely to affect some associations more trade than professional, but nevertheless, what can we learn from it? So, again, it's kind of staying in that curiosity, that learning mode to help prepare your organization for the level of uncertainty we are embarking upon.
So I spoke at the Canadian Society of
Mm-hmm.
Association Executives, and I spoke on AI and content. And one of the key takeaways, and we ended the session by saying that, regardless of how much AI is going to take over, we still need that human element.
You need it.
And it's so interesting because when associations first moved to DC, like in the 80s and 90s, they came here for advocacy. But now, when I do market research for various associations, they talk about networking. Advocacy is not the number one thing anymore. It's networking, it's connecting. So
The
it's the
human piece.
right, the human piece, or as Jamie said, the power skills, the
power,
empathy, the compassion, the connection.
Because we know, Sherry, the one thing the AI doesn't currently have is wisdom, right? We as humans have wisdom. So we gotta lean into our superpowers, what we have, and embrace them, but also understand how does AI complement the skills that we possess. That's a different way of thinking, and I mean, it'll be an expectation soon, if not already.
Right. And I mean, that's, potentially that's the next generation, to put that human element somehow or another in there. Which is scary to me, but that's another topic.
Out of my pay grade.
Really, me too. So let's switch totally. We've been talking about AI, we talk about DEI. Let's switch to the international community. Many associations are starting to embrace, the international community and the global economy. How do you see that moving, not just in 2025, but in the future? What do you see as any kind of trend?
Yeah, we know, and again, it depends on the association. Many associations are embracing international as a growth market, right? And it depends on how they are, it goes back to your business strategy. So I'll just share what we're doing here at ASAE. So we have an international global focus. However, we are really looking at doubling down based on our organizational priorities over the next year of the domestic market. We have tax reform. We have issues that are fundamental and core to associations that are impacting us here in the U.S. And so the board made a conscious decision to focus on the U.S. Now we still have a global approach in two areas. We approach global from content and community. So we share a body of knowledge, and we also focus on networking, the human element, and community. So that's our approach, and that works for us in today's environment. Other organizations that are collaborating, have conferences and such, but there are also issues that are related to visas and things that can prevent, and some of the conversations that are taking place this week. I was at a meeting this morning where there was a CEO that said, maybe 50% of the membership or businesses in Canada. And now there's a lot of angst in Canada, right? Because of it, the conversation about becoming a 51st state. Well, that impacts our business, right? And some might not think Canada is being international, but it really is as another country. So, but it's just those conversations that are taking place, whether it's Mexico, whether it's so it impacts the strategy, it impacts the approach of the association. So, I mean, that's the best, response I can give there, because everything is in flux now.
And this is another segment that I think affects associations in addition to the international piece. How are associations addressing the evolving needs of younger generations? So we mentioned before that a lot of the CEOs are starting to retire, and we have a new generation kind of coming up. Millennials are really mid-career now, right? So how are the generations behind the ones that we've been most familiar with? What is the association community doing to embrace those generations?
Yeah, the generations want their voices to be heard, right? And it's not just heard. My experience has been, but also the actions, the behaviors of your association, does that align with what you're saying? Right? So don't say that you want me to be involved and engaged and you don't have opportunities for me, right? Don't say that you want my opinion and it's not reflected in the priorities of the organization. So we're learning how to balance that, because I believe that we can, there's this old concept of reverse mentoring. We can learn a lot from this next generation because they've grown up or developed with the most advanced technology, and some of the technology I honestly don't know how to use. So I welcome that. It's a learning opportunity. So, we have a young professional people on our board. I mean, my first year here at ASAE, I met with the young professionals and how can we help you? And well, we want a seat at the table is what they said. And now they're very excited that we have one of them, a young professional on the board. But it's not because she's a young professional, it's because she deserved that seat. And they now feel that they have representation. So, a lot and giving them opportunities to lead, right, is important as well. What we are experiencing in ASAE is that we need to create an organizational structure where there's career advancement and it's not all hierarchical, and they want to see those opportunities. So we are now going through or working with an organization in terms of a compensation study so that we have levels of progress. We have a program around or structure around upward mobility within the organization, and so far is being well received by our young professionals on the team.
Well, I also think the one of the most active sections in ASAE's collaborate community, as well as the just the section is the young professionals, and I know that they've been really, I'm chair of the development committee for the Research Foundation. They have a program, no problem. They have a program where they it's 12 for 12 where they give to and a lot of those young leaders have then ascended from the YP committee into other ASAE committees. So that could serve as a model for other associates.
Absolutely. And the young professionals, they have for us, and so thank you so much for being involved with them. They want mentoring and they're not afraid to ask for it. So there's a way to engage with them. And they also have a strategic plan. And their strategic plan is how they believe or how they see themselves advancing ASAE, which I think is great. I absolutely think it's great. So that's, again, voice her. What are our behaviors? How are we embracing them is important.
Yeah, I think that too. Before we open it up to the audience for questions, and again, please feel free to type any questions that you might have for Michelle into the chat, and we will have 10 or so minutes for her to answer those questions. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about associations in 2025 or associations of the future that, just a closing statement would be wonderful, Michelle?
Yeah. Cool. I always believe when you apply pressure, you can get something great at times, right? So during the times that we're experiencing, I want to seek first to understand what is the opportunity here for us? What can we learn from? Because we know we need to change. I mean, that's inevitable, right? So I would just say, let's, kind of move forward with optimism. Let's move forward with understanding how does this impact the business of associations and how do we grow, evolve, and transform as a sector together. So I think that there could be a lot of opportunities for us moving forward.
Well, thank you so much. And we're ready to start taking some questions from our audience. So I think Kurt is going to help us today in terms of monitoring those questions. So if any questions come in, that would be, now would be the time to ask your question. You have an opportunity. You're muted, Kurt.
Didn't know anything of dialing in. There we go. I think you can hear me now. Thanks, Sherry and Michelle. We do have a few questions that have come in. I'll go through them one by one. First of all, the executive order on DEI, Michelle, do you think that's going to have any impact on the DELT program?
That's a good question. I just received the executive order, so I haven't read through it yet. So, certainly the way it's being positioned, it'll have an impact on all DEI related programs. So that's to be determined. So I don't really have a response. I will say this, our executive committee is meeting tomorrow with our attorney. We'll have a conversation about what's in this executive order and what does it mean for ASAE and its members. So there's more to come on that.
Very good. The next two questions are a little technical too and a little wonky from a policy side. And I'll read this word for word. In light of the revocation of President Biden's executive order on AI and the lack of comprehensive federal regulations on AI, Will you encourage the ASAE board to adopt a policy statement encouraging associations to develop more robust AI governance?
Yeah, I mean, so the way I'll answer that is that we have an AI coalition that's meeting in February, and there are a variety of agenda items. And one is like, what are the policies that a association should be adopting? So whatever comes out of that coalition, again, is a very diverse group of members helping to guide our strategies will be presented to the ASAE board. So that's just to come. That's in February, but we encourage associations to, at a minimum, have AI guidelines. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in our guidelines, Sherry, if you could just, I'll just send them to you. You can make it available. Our Chief Information Officer, Reggie Henry, 2 years ago, he authored guidelines that we use on here within ASAE.
Okay. Here's a little bit, I guess, more of a foundational question about resources. What resources are available to associations to strengthen their crisis management and rapid response? Such as position statements, templates, and what is for what's sure to be, quote, a more volatile regulatory and legislative environment over the next few years?
So the first part, I didn't quite hear the second part, but the first part would be, we released a toolkit last year, crisis risk management safety toolkit. We partnered with 2 associations, again, leveraging the thought leadership from our members, ASIS and REMS. It's a free toolkit. Again, Sherry, I can make that available to you to share with the group. Our goal, again, the tools and the resources we provide to help our members be successful. What is the second part of that question?
It was more editorializing about the context of the okay. era we're in, and maybe that's arguing that there's more of a need now.
Okay. Okay.
The other questions are related. What is your thinking and the board's thinking regarding the growth of private equity in important sectors, for example, in healthcare?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I think sometimes it's okay to say we don't have an opinion yet about that. So that's the one area where we've not had a conversation in terms of private equity. I will say that there will be one of our newest drivers of change to be released in February. This is a part of our foresight research, will be on private equity and its impact on the association community. So that's in development in terms of what it could be more future focused. And I would be more than happy to send the description that the foresight committee is working from, so you can understand the context that they're working from. So we can get that off to you as well.
Great. I'll throw out another question, and this is one. Under the Biden administration, there was actually a pullback of a safe harbor that allows associations to gather data on their profession, on their industry. And this is one of the values of an association, to collect that data, to sort of establish trends. I don't know if there's been any talk about revisiting this issue with the Trump administration and see if maybe we can get that safe harbor back so associations can resume collecting that data on their industries and their professions?
I'll definitely add this to our public policy list. We are, again, focused on tax reform. Now, the most recent executive order, DEI, and also with the growing conversation and developments in the administration related to AI. Those are the 3 focus areas. I would expect, though, under the whole AI conversation, for that to be a potential topic.
Okay. And another question, what role does ASAE have, or associations have, in training current and future generations on tools like AI, ML, ChatGPT, and the like?
Yeah, I think it's a very important role. I think it should be part of the body of knowledge training in associations. We certainly make those opportunities available here at ASAE. Can we do a better job? Absolutely, we can, and we will in the near future. I think, though, there's a close correlation to what we discussed earlier in terms of human skills. So our focus has been on this whole human skill development and how in supporting this next generation and understanding how to align human skills with AI, right? And in one program that we have, we've made available over the past few years is called Ready Me, and it really focuses on a human skill, essential skill development.
Michelle, it's been a great conversation too. So I know Sherry grilled you, and we've had some conversations from the questions from the audience. Is there something we didn't ask that you expected us to ask?
I'm sorry, you broke up.
Is there a question that we didn't ask yet that you thought we might throw your way?
I think you've asked some pretty good questions. I think so. I would say that it's just been an honor, and I'm very excited to have the opportunity to have this conversation with you about the future. And just know that ASAE is a resource to you. We'll make sure we provide you with some of the tools that I mentioned on this call. But if there's something that you need from us that you believe that we should consider, just let us know. I mean, we are your professional home.
Thank you so much for this great conversation today, Michelle. We really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you, Sherry.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.